Hi guys, welcome back to chapter 3. All I'm going to do here is just very briefly answer some questions that have been asked from me from Geordie and from Ryan. So Geordie sent me an email saying that he's playing mainly £5 tournaments, and he's getting a situation where people are limping a lot, and then when he raises they still call, and he wants to know sort of what he should do in this situation. So the example that he gives of the blinds are 5100, and he's got a stack of 3500. So what I would say is in the first 4 levels, play it how you want to, limp along. And the most important thing when you're faced with limpers is to know your limper. What type of limper are they? Most people that limp, especially at the lower level, are not playing optimally. So they're limping either low pocket pairs or suited connectors or rag aces, those sort of hands. Now, the player pool on Sky is quite small, so it's really important. When you've got limpers, you must know what kind of limpers they are. So what do I mean by what kind of limpers are they? Are they somebody that limp with a wide range, including good hands and bad hands, or do they always just limp the suited connector type hands? Basically, do they follow up a limp with a balanced range? And what I mean by that is, do they limp fold to raise, limp call a raise, or limp re-raise? Now, the good players that limp will have a balanced range, which means that you don't really know how strong their hand is. But if it's a case that they're limping and you're pretty sure they're limping with marginal hands, then typically the raise size, which although we're keeping it consistent, when there's limpers that makes it slightly different. And you should be looking at doing a 3x raise plus 1 for each limper. Now, if, as Geordie was saying, he does that sort of size raise, he puts like a pot size bet in, which is similar, then, and he's still getting called by everybody, well, then there's one of two things you can do. You can say, I know all these guys that have limped are limping with marginal hands. I'm going to go all in, even with my marginal hand, or I'm going to raise it so big that they don't call. Or you can sit back and say, right, I know that they're calling, I'm just going to wait till I get a decent hand and then play it. After level 4, especially with the strategy that we're playing, I don't like limping along to a limp, so I think you either isolate them. I mean, when I play and I get limpers, I typically raise big, get one caller, and take it down with a c-bet. That's my sort of thinking on it. Or hope that they all fold pre. Obviously, I'm doing the same type of thing when I've got a good hand, so to balance it out. So that would, and Geordie asks, what type of hands should we be raising it up with? Well, knowing that we're always getting called. Well, if you are always getting called, then you want to be you want to be having a fairly decent hand. Now, what I would say a fairly decent hand is, if you know that you haven't got the limp raisers, if they're only the limp callers or the limp folders, then I would say anything like ace 9 and better, ace 8 suited and better, king 10 suited better, like those, I'd be raising it up with that. I wouldn't be limping with anything. If I've got a pocket pair, if you've got a low pocket pair, I guess you could limp to set mine, but we're really trying to get away from that whole sort of thought process about calling and limping along. We're just really, even with a low pocket pair, if they were, I would be inclined to raise it up, get one caller and take it away with a c-bet. If you raise it up and everybody calls, then, well, it might be a case if you know that they've got marginal hands, that then to get it. But it's more important when you get players that limp to know what their sort of range is, because there are a few players that will limp even with ace king and ace queen and pocket jacks. Now, if that's in their limping range, then you need to be careful. But if they're always raising with those type of hands and limping with worse hands, then you can be more aggressive against it. So I hope that helps a little bit with that one. And then I had a question from Ryan, which is, if I can find it again. Yeah, so this is Waller02, is it? I can't remember your ID, but yeah, it's Waller or something. And he's talking about the size of the C-bet. Now, I did in the first video talk quite a lot about the size of C-bets, so you might want to go back there. The most important thing is that your C-bets are consistent, in as much as they're consistent based on the board texture, and that you do this. I mean, in a perfect world, if you've got a good hand and you're sure you're ahead and you want to get called, you'd ideally C-bet as much as you can that's going to get called. And if you're bluffing, you're going to C-bet as little as you can that's going to get a fold. But in reality, you'd soon be sort of found out for that. So my recommendation is to keep the C-bet size the same on dry flops and the same on wet flops. In my first video, I suggested about 35%, something like that, on a dry flop, and about 50% on a wet flop. But I get called half pot Harry sometimes because I go into auto drive and just C-bet half pot all the time. And whilst that's probably not optimal, it really frustrates players because they never know from that size of bet what type of hand I've got, whether it's a strong hand, a good hand, a draw, because I'm always doing the same. Now, obviously, I do adjust it, but that is actually not a bad rule to go by, in as much as while you're putting this new process together, I would say bet half the pot with a click off, so about 45%. So I'll click on half pot and then just tap it down one on every C-bet that you do. And then you can never, you can adjust it later on, if you need to, for dry flop, low flop. But if you're not quite sure on how much to C-bet, then just half pot with a click off. So like if it's 1,000 pot in the pot, you bet like 450 or something like that. And then it says, if I know they fold a C-bet slot, do I bet 100% of the range? Not always. I mean, if I've raised with a hand like ace 2 and the flop is 9 jack queen or something like that, then I might not bother C-betting that one. But because that's so much that smacks their range, it's going to be hard to get a fold on that sort of board. So typically I C-bet dry flops, and I don't C-bet the wet flops unless I've got a semi-bluff draw or I've actually hit it. So I hope this helps a little bit. I'm very conscious that people may not want to watch a load of videos. I'm not sure whether everyone's had a chance to watch the chapter 2 ones. I don't really want to put a load out there and people not I feel sort of like that they're getting behind with them, or that they haven't got time to watch them or whatever. But I did want to just answer these 2 questions, so hopefully that helps a bit with that. And Jez sent me a hand which in a message which I've replied to, so I probably won't go through that one on video. But if you got any comments on this, or you want me to discuss anything else, then let me know. Cheers. All the best.